we're so honored to have the one and only Jessica Mendoza join us live today, also from home. On top of being an Olympic softball gold medalist, she's also, as you all know, a trailblazing baseball broadcaster, an ESPN baseball analyst, and also a Baseball for All honorary board member this year. And we couldn't be more thrilled to have her with us today. So thanks for joining us, Jessica.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited. I'm pumped too. This is my first Zoom Q&A. So to be able to actually see a lot of the faces out there, I'm scrolling through and seeing all of you guys. I'm so pumped. This is awesome.
So just so you know, Jessica, even though we're all at home right now, we're still staying strong as a community and in the girls and women's baseball community. And tuning in today, we've got girls from all across North America. So as far west as Alaska and Hawaii, all the way over to DC and Florida and New Jersey, and also folks tuning in from Canada and Mexico as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's really cool. We've got a lot of our high school Baseball for All captains, as well as our junior captains, who are kind of junior high and middle school kids who are helping us grow the game for girls in baseball, as well as a lot of other talented, passionate players, coaches, and supporters of girls women's baseball. So welcome to everyone who's with us today.
Oh, this is so cool. Yeah. Oh, I'm just seeing everybody with their hats on and just from all over too. Oh, this is really cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm pumped.
Yeah, so we're really excited. I think so I've told some of you guys the way that this is going to work is you can add your questions over here in the chat function. I know that some of you guys have already sent over some questions, but yeah, feel free to send over your questions whenever you're ready, and we'll start asking them for you. Okay. So to start off, we actually have a question from one of our Baseball for All captains. Her name is Paloma. She's from Washington, D.C. She's 16 years old. And her question was, what steps did you take to get where you are today? Is it what you started in college? Did you answer a help wanted ad? How did you get your start in kind of the baseball broadcasting world?
It started with, being a softball player, being on the national team. And I remember doing an interview after we just played China, after a World Cup game, and it was an ESPN game, and they'd interviewed me, and it was kind of leading up to the Olympics. And afterward, they just came up to me and they're like, "We love your energy. We would love it if you would consider, being a broadcaster for our softball games." And at first I was actually pretty hesitant because my background wasn't in journalism. It wasn't in communications. I had planned to actually move to DC and get into politics and work on educational reform and all this stuff. And so in my mind, television broadcasting had never entered my mind. But I had some really cool people around me that were just try it. What's the worst that happens? You try it and your worst fears are, real, that you aren't good at it and you were never meant to do it. Fine. But the upside is that this could be something really cool. And so I started in softball, started with the Women's College World Series. But my love and my heart has always been rooted in baseball. That's where I got my start. My dad was a head baseball coach at a college locally. And so I grew up in the dugouts of many of baseball stadiums. And I just wanted to also expand outside of softball and start covering baseball. So I kind of pushed my bosses slowly but surely of just being an analyst. I kind of started more in the reporter role, which is a more accepting of a female role, and then kind of just slyly started being an analyst instead of a reporter, which basically the difference is if you're reporting, you're telling the stories, you're doing the interviews, awesome job. But what I wanted to do was break down the swings and talk to the athletes, talk to Jake Arrieta about why he's throwing his slider and how he's finishing, and just basically telling people more the how and why. And breaking things down, which not a lot of women were doing at that point. And so once I was able to start doing that, I knew it was something I wanted to continue doing.
That's amazing. Thank you. We've got another question from Ella Grace, who's one of our junior captains, and she is from Hawaii. And she says, what's the best advice you would give someone like me who will eventually transfer to softball from no experience?
I feel like it's crazy. People make such a big deal of the differences, and I didn't feel like it was a super hard transition. I mean, as a hitter, you're looking at a release point. So it's a difference, obviously, of, you know, just a release point here from the hip. But just like anything, I mean, I know even in baseball, you're doing tosses, you know, from underhand. Like my dad would just always just toss to me. He'd throw overhand, we throw underhand too. It was just kind of a mix that you do. Even in baseball, they're always tossing underhand. So that wasn't huge at all. I would say that probably the biggest thing was just not letting the noise get to you. Like, oh, you have a baseball swing or you have a baseball this, it's going to be hard. You know the game, and honestly, the more repetition that you can get, the better. Because everything else, the defense, the strategy, all of it's the same. The hitting was like the slight adjustment, but I would always go out and just hit and hit and hit anyway. And so it was kind of cool because my dad just taught himself how to throw underhand, even though he was a baseball coach. And so he would do the full windmill, and it was from like 10 feet away, but like he would still do that. And that just kind of helped me with my timing, because I feel like that was probably the biggest thing, is just getting that, like watching the ball come around instead of from overhand in baseball.
Awesome. We have a question from 12-year-old Kate, who is from the LA area. She says, do you think that the USA Baseball women's national team will ever be on ESPN?
You know, I do. I feel like that is a big push. I mean, I don't have a say. I wish I was in those meetings. I wish that part of my job was to actually be in the boardrooms and the conference rooms that decide what programming goes on. But I know that there is a huge momentum, and I credit baseball for all, honestly, and Justine Siegal and just so many women and men out there that are talking about their own daughters or their past experiences of playing baseball and the fact that it is different. I've never seen the jump of popularity of girls playing baseball than I've seen in the last 5 years. And I think a lot of that has to do with like the fact that we can put out there in social media and we can see more of it. Because really a lot of it's, you have to see it to be it. It never occurred to me that I could continue to play baseball. I played as a young child. I played up until I was 9-10 years old, and then switched over to softball because that was just what you did. But the fact that you can be a girl, you could be a parent and see like this is something that girls are doing, and then getting it at the college level where you just start to see more girls and women playing baseball. And then obviously the next step is television and getting ESPN to cover it. And I just feel like that it's something that people are interested in, especially because it's new to a lot of people, even though it's not new to any of us. Like girls have been playing baseball for decades. But it's something new for viewers that I feel like if they're flipping the channels and they see girls playing baseball, they'd be like, hold up. All right, I'm going to watch this. And that's something that I get excited about and hope they do.
Absolutely. And I think that we even see with the players that come through Baseball for All and things like that, you know, we have people on the call right now that are everyone from freshmen to seniors in high school who are baseball players and playing on their JV and varsity baseball teams. And so there's just such an increasing talent pool, and it's really exciting to see, you know, a lot of these girls go on to play for the women's national team. So just big things ahead, I think. Okay, we have another question from Olivia, who's one of our high school captains, and she's from Oregon. And she says, how can we get baseball for all and girls in baseball on the media more? How do we get, what can they do to kind of expand the awareness of girls and women in baseball?
I'm in Oregon too, by the way. So shout out. We're in the same state. And by the way, Eliana and Sophia, you guys are cracking me up right now. I just have to give some, like, I'm like scrolling through. They got their batting helmets on. They're outside. Like, they're like ready to go play. This is cracking me up. You guys are making my morning right now. It's so cool. But yeah, how do we get, you know, I think the biggest thing is just, I think from a player standpoint is to not only obviously play the game and grow yourself and get better as an athlete, that's first and foremost, but to also just share. I think in the day and age of social media, and you think about like all these younger players and even women that are playing, you know, whether it's through Twitter or Instagram, just putting it out there and getting more followers, doing a TikTok video, like while you're out there with your teammates. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but that's how things and momentum gets going, is more and more people just need to see that you guys are playing and doing it in your own authentic way. You know, as much as I want to see just like a girl hitting a ball, like being able to also show personality and who are these girls, and like I'm shouting out right now, you know, I see Elizabeth, I see like all these girls like just that I'm scrolling through right now. And I'm like, I want to know your stories, Olivia and Abigail. And I mean, just like everyone that I'm looking at, Taylor and Alice. And I think it's Athena. That's such a cool name, by the way. Sorry. Like, I want to know your stories. I want to know who you are. And I think that to me, beyond just the fact that you guys are kicking butt playing baseball, is telling your individual stories and your own routes and your support from your mom and your dad and how they're helping you, do something that might not be as normal as like playing softball, but something even cooler in the fact that you're playing either with the boys or with an all-girls team.
Amazing. So this is Josephine from New York City. She said, how were your first few experiences as the first woman baseball broadcaster? Did you face opposition initially due to you being the first woman? And if so, how did you deal with that opposition?
I think with any kind of change, there's always going to be resistance. That's just life, right? I mean, even with my kids, if I'm telling them to do something different, they're like, no, like this is like different. Like, I don't want it. I think it's human nature to reject things that are not familiar. And I'm not saying that's okay. I mean, there was a ton of like, yes, like a woman doing, finally, this is awesome. I think what surprised me the most was, yeah, there was opposition, but just that people were so shocked that a woman would be doing baseball, that they would be talking about baseball, that they could actually have the knowledge to be on a game and break down a hitter. And I don't know if I've been naive this whole time, but in my mind, I'm like, at the time it was 2015, it wasn't that long ago. And I'm like, it's 2015, people, like women can do stuff, like kind of get with the time. So yes, there was opposition, and there still is now, that people just do not like me, do not want me here. They come at me, and I'm not saying I always take it with a smile and just like, whatever. There's times it definitely does affect me, and gets to me. But I do remind myself that we are in a day and age where this needs to happen more, because I just more feel sorry for the people that oppose it. Because in my mind, they just haven't been surrounded by like what we're living in, which is women can do anything.
Perfect. So Athena, actually, who is from Alaska, has a question.
With the coolest name. Sorry,
Yeah.
I just think of Athens and the powerful Athena, and sorry, it's such an awesome name. I can see you, Athena. Are those panda bears behind you?
Yeah.
That's so cool. Okay, sorry, your question.
Athena, do you want to ask your question?
Sure. So my question was, well, so many girls are told that they should switch to softball because of the college scholarship opportunities, and there aren't any in baseball. So I was wondering if, do you think there could ever be women's college baseball, and what would that look like?
That's a great question. It's an interesting one. And I mean, and Justine can jump in here too, because I know she has more knowledge even on the college game, because right now it's just a push to get women to play with the men, right? To be able to have a college scholarship and be good enough. But to me, I'm with you, Athena. It's like, we should have our own game too. It shouldn't have to be like, well, we have to play with the boys. It should be girls baseball, and the college scholarships should be there. And I don't know where we're at with girls in college having their own sport of baseball. I know there's a huge push right now to be able to get more girls to be seen on the boys teams, and if they're good enough, to be able to have the scholarship opportunities to play in college, which gets me excited too, because I think we can hang with the boys. But I also am with you, Athena, because I think that we need to have our own sport, and to be able to have, because then there'd be so many more scholarship opportunities instead of a handful, right? In all of college, there'd be hundreds if girls baseball was recognized as an NCAA sport. So we need to get on the NCAA to start doing that. Justine, I'm calling on you.
We've got another question from Alyssa, who's from Torrance, California. Alyssa, do you want to ask your question?
So what are some things that you look forward to in the upcoming season despite everything going on right now?
Oh, wow. I honestly am looking forward. We were just doing actually a Baseball Tonight segment yesterday. And I mean, first of all, I kind of get excited that this is going to be a shortened major league season. And the reason I get excited, I know everyone's like, wait, you don't want, is because this, I feel like, is an opportunity for baseball to do things even more creative, right? Like to be able to think outside the box. If there's only, let's say, 50 games, and we need, because maybe in those, half those games, fans aren't even allowed to attend. How do we engage fans more? How do we get them excited about these 50 games? And because it's such a different time, let's do things we've never done before. Let's mic the players up and have engagement from fans where they could ask questions like you are right now, Alyssa, and saying, plug in a question, and then as a player is maybe taking the field in the second inning, so not in the middle of the game, but as they're taking the field, they do a shout out or an answer, engage and talk. And to me, like when I was talking about with you guys, I want to know all your stories. I feel like baseball lacks so much in personalizing their players, and they're so interesting and fun, and you guys get it when you're out there on the field and you're giving each other a hard time, or you're talking smack. That's the stuff that doesn't get heard. And I believe that, I just really believe this is a time for baseball to really challenge the sport and say, let's do things differently. It's already going to be a crazy season, like nothing we've ever seen before. Let's roll this as a positive and try things that we couldn't have done in a 162 game season.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Just so some of you guys know, I'm looking through all the chat stuff. I'm prioritizing the players' questions first. So if you have other questions, feel free to add them and we'll get back to you if we have time, but we're going to prioritize the players' questions first. Paloma, did you want to ask your question and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. I'm Paloma. I'm a huge fan. I just want to throw that out there. Hang on, I need to find my questions. What would you say you do to practice what you might say on the air, considering you don't really want to screw up on ESPN?
So what do I practice, or how do I practice?
I guess both. Like if you have like exercises you do, or like stuff you might say beforehand to like keep you motivated and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's dual, like, and I'm with you. Like I definitely put a ton of pressure, I'd say more pressure than most, on themselves, just because if I mess up, then it's like, oh, this is why women shouldn't be doing baseball, because she said his name wrong, or she stuttered, or there's so much out there of like just ready to be critical of like the moment that I fail or do something wrong, which inevitably is going to happen. Like I've had to learn that like I can't be perfect. And I think the harder that I try to be perfect, then honestly, the worse I'm going to do. Just like when you're playing, right? If you want to have that just absolutely perfect swing instead of just letting it fly, like you're never going to be able to be the player that you are. So things that I do is I just make sure that I know my numbers. I know that I do know like the names, and I go over like with our play-by-play with usually the local like team. So if it's like the Cubs, I'll Peter Chase, who's their, media guy, I'll go over with him, like making sure I understand everyone's name, that, especially new guys that just got called up. I'm a big numbers person because I'm kind of nerdy. So I have this whole sheet of notes in front of me that goes with like my scorecard. And on the side, I have these like little sections that I just go over and make sure that I've got like on base percentage, OPS, like all the numbers, I double, triple check them. And then I'll have these like cool little like facts too that I think are kind of fun. And I'll write those in a different color ink because again, I'm a nerd. And so I have all this stuff in front of me so that I'm not just like off the cuff. I feel like when I hear a lot of like guys say the wrong thing, it's because they're just talking. Like they have no notes and they're just like, yeah, like, which is nothing wrong with that. But I think a lot of times when you're saying things like numbers or something very specific, it's good to have just some notes like you just did right there, Paloma. You're like, okay, I want to make sure I have my questions. So like you got your phone out, you had your notes on your phone, right? And because you wanted to make sure you got it right. Like, I think it's a balance between being authentically you and just talking, which I have to do. I can't just be reading from my notes, but making sure, that's why I have like a little section. So I can't write like paragraphs, but just like my little like, okay, yeah, 301 this, like 422 on this. Like I've got those numbers in front of me that I can look at. And then I always write out everyone's name phonetically. So like if it's a funky name, I'll make sure to write it not how it's spelled, but I'll write it how you're supposed to say it, which then makes my scorecard look kind of funny because it'll have like really long, like funny looking names sometimes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Kennedy, do you want to ask your question? not, I can answer. I can ask it for you. Kennedy would like to know. She is from the New Jersey area. She'd like to know, who is your favorite professional player you've ever talked with?
Whoa, you're gonna make me answer that? Oh gosh, that's hard because I think the relationships is what I enjoy the most. Like just talking shop with these guys, and I feel like, I don't know, not that I've been blessed, but just I think the sport's got some really great guys that I can just talk to, and we can break down hitting and just get into things. If I had to pick, oh God, it's so hard, honestly. Because I like so many players, and I gravitate, towards them. Like, especially I would say the bigger teams, the bigger name teams, because they, like, the bigger stars tend to get a lot of attention, and there definitely are stars that aren't as nice or friendly, and I get it because they get so many people that hound them. So for example, I've always enjoyed like Mookie Betts. Not that he's my favorite, but like he's definitely somebody that every time I'm out on the field, he makes an effort to come over, just say, hey, what's going on? And like, we might just talk about like his new baby girl, or we might talk about like just, changing diapers or something silly. Or we might like, hey, like I saw the other day, it looked like you moved your back foot in the batter's box. And you were kind of like trying, he's like, yeah, I was really trying to go the other way with the ball. And like, we'll just boom for the next like 15 minutes. And he's getting pulled in a million different directions. And to me, it's just about respect, just like respecting me like they would one of the guys, which I don't feel like should be hard to do. And I feel like for most guys isn't, but I appreciate it more from the guys that are getting pulled in every direction. Mike Trout's another one, like just super. In fact, that was like my first ever interview was with Mike Trout. And I was so nervous and just like almost ready to throw up because I'm like, can I do this? Like I'm going live on television. And he was like hilarious. He's like, it's going to be all right. Like, you're going to be great. Like he was giving me a pep talk to interview him. And I look back, I still have a photo of that interview. It actually just popped up on my Facebook page. You know how it tells you like 5 years ago, this happened. And I was smiling because in the photo you could see he was totally being like super just like, I got you, and I look back on it and I was like those little things, right? And for you guys, when you become super famous, even if it's just like kids in the area asking for your autograph or someone asking for help, always remember it just takes that one moment that you could just smile at someone and take the time to give them attention. And it could be a reporter, it could be a fan, it could be anyone, and you could just make their day. You could calm them down. I mean, a lot of people are going to be really nervous to meet you guys when you're all so famous. So I always think of the players that take the time to do that.
Cool. Eliana and Sophia from the baseball field. Do you guys want to ask your question to Jess?
Hi, guys. I love it. This is cracking me up. You guys are the best right now.
So, what does it feel like to be a woman in like so high up in a sport that is like mostly thought to be a man's thing?
I don't think of it as a man's thing. I know other people do, but I think it's all about what you think. So if you think that, hey, this is a man's sport and gosh, I'm the only woman, then I think it's a lot harder. Now, people remind me of that all the time. Like, oh, like this is for guys, like go away. We don't want women here. And you're going to hear that. And you've probably heard it, at times, for me, it's about what I think. And if they have a problem with it, that's their problem. I really believe that women should be doing anything that they can or want to do. And that definitely includes baseball. And women have been playing baseball for a really long time. And even though in my position, there aren't a ton of us that are talking about baseball, it's getting more and more and more. And all I know is that I definitely belong and I deserve to be here in this position. And sometimes I have to remind myself of that because doubt is something that definitely happens. Like I start to wonder, well, maybe because I didn't play Major League Baseball, I shouldn't be talking about Major League Baseball. And then within me, I don't go and ask my friends. I don't go ask my husband, do I deserve to be here? I ask myself, because ultimately that's the only person that's going to matter when you're faced with adversity. And I know with 100% certainty that I do belong here. And when I'm speaking, I speak as, with that confidence and not with the doubt that I think a lot of other people might have.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, are you guys gonna hit it? What are you guys doing out there? I need to know. You got like a sock net back there? Like what?
Oh, so we're in the dugout at our local baseball field, and we were just practicing before the conference call.
That's so cool. So were you guys hitting and like fielding, or like what was your practice?
Yeah, we were about to hit when the conference call came on, and then we were throwing before.
And your dad's there too?
Yeah.
Hey,
okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Dad.
Hi, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so cool.
All right, cool. Our next question comes from Olivia. I know you kind of answered this a little bit, but Olivia Pichardo. Olivia, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, so since it was kind of already addressed, I'll ask one going back to your superstar college roots. So you graduated from Stanford University. So what was it like being a college athlete at a school with high academics and a reputable sports program? And were you able to balance your work with softball?
It's a great question. I love your sweatshirt too, by the way. That's pretty cool. Yeah, it I think the hardest thing was, first of all, just getting in. Like, I feel like in Stanford's case, you know, it was more about like working hard in high school and thinking about the next level. I think high school can be challenging because you're surrounded more, I feel like, then with people that don't care, that people that just want to like cheat or, you know, skip out on school, or, you know, you're just a lot of people that aren't headed towards college, you know. And I think that was my biggest challenge, is just seeing the bigger picture and seeing the future and getting good grades, even when it was hard. I had to take my SAT 4 times to be able to get a good enough score to get into Stanford. And that was hard. I hated it. I hated every minute of studying for that test. And, you know, but it was about the bigger picture. Once I got in, I felt like I was home. Like, then I was surrounded by people who got it. You know, you get to pick your own classes, and that's just at Stanford. That's just college. You get to kind of decide like, okay, this is what I want to do. And to be honest, classes are so much more fun. The people are so much more fun because people are just more driven. They're there because they want to be, instead of how can I like get out of this or not do this or take the easy route. People want the harder route because they know that it's going to pay off more. So once I got there, I think like when you mentioned the balance of like playing and academics and honestly social, like I wanted to have friends and be a normal human being as well. My freshman year, it was a struggle. The first 3 months, I could not figure out like just time management, because it was a lot more. It was a lot more practice, weights, conditioning, then tons of schoolwork. And of course, like I was living in a freshman dorm on my own for the first time. So no one was telling me when to go to bed, or I had to do my laundry, or, you know, all that stuff. So then then you figure it out, right? It's like one of those things, like that's, like I said, it's harder. But once you figure it out, it's like, okay, all right, I got this. And that's why, you know, college isn't for everybody. Playing sports in college isn't for everybody. It's something that's a challenge, but I'll tell you what, I still use it now because I'm still always balancing, maybe not today because there's not a whole lot going on, but when I'm working and I've got family and I've got friends and I'm traveling, and oh my gosh, it goes back to my roots. You guys are doing it now. You're all athletes, right? And you're all getting good grades, I hope. It's a struggle, but it's definitely worth it because the payoff at the end.
Amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Karina and Taylor, you guys both have similar questions. Do you, Karina, want to go ahead and ask yours, and Taylor, you can kind of add to that a little bit?
Yeah. What is the likelihood of there being a WMob in the future?
And Taylor, you've got some stuff to add on to that too, right? Taylor, you're on mute.
I'm trying to find everybody. There's so many more people now. I love it.
Taylor, I think you're still on mute. But it's okay. Her part of the question also that ties into that. It says, do you think? Oh, okay, she's got it.
I thought you had control of that. Okay. My question was, do you think that with an increase of media attention, bringing in more younger girls, there could eventually be parallel male and female youth high school, collegiate, and eventually professional baseball leagues? And what do you think has to be in place before we can have a league of our own again, similar to the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League or maybe a WMLB today?
Yeah, well, I'll address the WMLB first because I know the two questions towards that. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's something that Major League Baseball has talked about. I know at the youth level, they've been really great and better with not only supporting girls playing softball, but girls playing baseball. Which is something newer. Like, I feel like that wasn't even talked about with Major League Baseball. It was inclusive, but it wasn't as promoting of trying to get more girls to play what they want to play. I think the next level of that is getting high schools and local communities really just to be supportive and understand that there should be a separate girls baseball team and not just the, force of, okay, you play with the boys. And then to the college before we get to the point where there's a WMLB. I would love that. I know right now the conversations with MLB in the past have always been for a softball league. They actually this is like 20 plus years ago now, there was a WPSL, which was promoted primarily and marketed by Major League Baseball. So it was as close as we've ever been to a women's league provided by Major League Baseball, but it was softball. And it didn't work out. And so I feel like they've been gun shy to get involved on the women's level. But to me, it just makes sense as far as even if you have 30 teams and you take, let's say, 8 of those 30 that agree to use the facilities. The biggest thing is their marketing. They already have these huge marketing teams. They can just like send out to, every LA Dodger fan, to every Baltimore Oriole fan, like these Seattle Mariners, like there's women that are playing on the off days when the Mariners aren't playing or the Orioles aren't playing. So yes, that is definitely something that's possible. I just feel like we need to start more locally first and getting more communities to be supportive of it and then have those numbers increase, because at the end of the day, when it comes to these pro leagues, it comes down to the dollar, and they want to know that they can make money and not lose money on it.
Thank you.
That makes sense. Can I ask like a really quick follow-up question?
Yes.
Okay. Little League has traditionally boys baseball and girls softball, and then the Olympics on the other end, like the height of competition, has men's baseball and women's softball. And it's the perception that creates, like through the media and through having it on the youth end and the Olympic end, makes it seem to other people, not girls in baseball, that softball's for girls and baseball's for boys. I was wondering how you thought we could fight that perception created by Little League and the Olympics.
Yeah, I think it's about educating. Something that I've been talking with actual Little Leagues. I do the Little League World Series every year. Is they have the Little League softball, like you said, and Little League baseball is actually talking about and there's the girls. We'll get girls like Monet Davis that show up and definitely play and are awesome, and we do stories on them. But actually talking to Little League about having Little League baseball for girls, and that's something that was actually on my to talk to Little League about this year, is just if there's anything in place. And to me, it's just having those conversations initially. Steve Keener, who's the president of Little League, might have never been asked that question, from someone internally of like, hey, have we ever thought about having Little League baseball just for girls? And so if just asking the question sometimes plants the seed, and then following up and just continuing to educate and tell people. I mean, Taylor, I'm sure for you, there's been times where you have to repeat yourself a couple times because you're like, I play baseball. And they're like, wait, you mean softball? No, I mean baseball. And then you have to educate them. And do it diplomatically. Don't be like, you're an idiot. You don't know the girls play baseball. Where you been? Like, that's not the way to do it. But just, tell people in your town, like you have your parents' friends are over for dinner. Just be like, hey, just wanted you to know I play baseball. Like, talk about it. I mean, be like Olivia with her awesome sweatshirt. And I've seen so many of you guys with like these cool baseball. Yes, Taylor, like all of you guys, like be out there promoting it, talking about it, because it starts the community level. And I hate saying that because, of course, we want it at the Olympics. We want it at like the major league level, of course. But it starts locally. You just educating your friends, your teachers, your parents' friends, like everyone around you, and telling them about, hey, I got a game this weekend. I play baseball. It's so awesome. And if they don't know, or they say something negative, kill them with kindness. Be positive back. Be like, oh, I'm sorry you don't understand that girls play baseball, but we do, and we have so much fun. And I'm telling you, just looking at all your faces right now, I don't see how anyone wouldn't be like, okay, I need to support this.
Thank you.
Patsy, do you want to ask your question now?
Sure. My question was, what's one of the hardest obstacles you've had to overcome to get where you are today?
I would say just, it's funny. I would say it's more of myself sometimes getting in the way. I mean, I've been told no. And I mean, I could talk about obstacles of like people saying like, sorry, you can't do baseball. Having bosses tell me that I couldn't do it. But to me, that was never a real obstacle because it almost fueled my fire. It actually helped me get to where I was at. I think if people were just like, yeah, this is possible, like, I don't think I would have been as driven. But the fact that people were saying no and that you couldn't do it just kind of like, it got me fired up. My biggest obstacles have been more with myself. Like I kind of referenced it earlier, but I think as confident as I am and the fact that I've gotten to where I'm at, like definitely builds on that, but I'm also human. And there's times where I doubt myself, where I don't think that I can do something. It happened even as an athlete. There were times I remember being on the Olympic team and looking around and being like, how is Lisa Fernandez and Crystal Bustos and these like women that I got their autograph like literally 5 years ago, and now I'm on the team with them? Like, I don't deserve to be here. Like, there's no way. Like, they're so much better than me. And for me, I would become that person, like the person that you doubt. If you tell yourself enough that you're not good enough, you become what you fear. And so I've learned throughout my life, it's just a constant battle of like doubt and do you belong here? I've had times where we're 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on air. And in those moments of countdown, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, do I really know what I'm talking about? Do I really like deserve to have this voice? Like, oh my gosh, like doubt. And I've been like frozen for like the first few seconds of television. Cause I'm like, I don't know if I should be speaking right now because I'm a woman. And I hate saying that, but it's the reality of just being a human being and having doubt. And I think like anything, we train as athletes, right? We train to be better hitters. We train to be, better players. We also have to train ourselves to be better people, like meaning more confident. Look yourself in the mirror and know that you're beautiful and strong and that you deserve to be where you're at. But that takes practice too. And I learned that I can't show up every day just being the confident Jess that I was yesterday. I got to work at it and know that, Jess, okay, you know your stuff. You've been studying, like you got this. Let's go. As an athlete, I knew I deserved to be here. Yeah, Lisa Fernandez on this field. Yeah, Crystal Bustos. But guess what? Like, Jess, you can rake too. Like, let's go. Let's do this. So my biggest obstacle has definitely been myself. And I think for a lot of people, that's, I think, the biggest hurdle you have to get over to get to your biggest goals.
Thank you.
Sophie from DC. You want to ask your question now?
Hey, Jess. Thank you so much for doing this. This is so awesome. I just first want to say that. I was wondering, so you've probably obviously had some negative experiences throughout your career getting to where you are today. And I was wondering if there were a lot of moments where you thought, yes, I love doing this, but even if I didn't love doing this, I feel not obligated, but I want to show other people, other girls, I want to break these barriers so they know they can do it too.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably the pressure I felt the last 5 years is that it's bigger than me. Like there's times where like it might be hard or like, I don't know, I just was challenged with certain things and I had to think about like, like one, like I can't screw up because it's not just about me screwing up. It's about all the women that are after me, all the girls, that are watching me on television that think I want to do that. And if I don't do it successfully, then they don't get that opportunity. And it's a realization. And I was actually telling this to Alyssa Nacken, who's the Giants just hired their first coach at the big league level, and it was her. And I was sitting down at dinner with her, and she was talking about how she just wanted to be about the team, and she didn't want the attention, and she didn't want people paying attention to her. And I said, I get that, and I love that you're humble. I think that's awesome. It's what's gotten you where you're at. But I'm sorry to tell you, but it needs to be about you too. Like, there has to be times where people know your name. They know your story, because otherwise it'll just be another woman. Hey, that female that coaches with the Giants, but no one will know who she is. You know, for you, Sophie, to know her story, to know her background, then makes her more relatable to you and creates an opportunity for maybe you to do the same thing. So with these things comes responsibility. And that's something that you might not choose when you check the box to take a position, but it comes with the job. And it's an important one. And I hope that every female that's involved in baseball, including you guys, when I tell you guys, when people ask you questions, if you play baseball and why don't you play softball? And it's your job to educate them. It comes with the responsibility of being one of few. And obviously it's gaining and more and more and more, but in these like stages right now, it's really up to you guys to tell everybody. I love the guitar too, Sophie. That's cool.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. Rebecca from Georgia, one of our captains as well. Do you want to ask your question?
Hi, so yeah, I'm Rebecca, and my question is for the captains. We all have like projects that we're doing, and mine is that I'm compiling a book, hopefully, of personal narratives and stories, because you were talking a lot about getting to know people's stories who play baseball, and I was trying to compile like an anthology of them. And I was wondering if you had any advice on how to show the scope of girls not just playing, but being in the industry of baseball and umpiring and coaching and all of this.
How to find all of them?
How to find them, how to communicate that. I don't know.
Like how to tell their stories, I guess, is that, or share like all of these people. I mean, I think it's a combination of research and finding out, okay, you know, and fortunately or unfortunately, there's not a ton. So the good news for you is that you can, especially at the highest levels, you can find that they're, you know, at the major league level, if you look at front offices, you know, just take that alone. But the good news for you is that like you can find their stories, you know, the Gene Aftermans of the world, the Yankees, and you know, all the at the coaching level, there's 4 right now, you know, so starting at the top, finding out who they are, and then I encourage you to, you know, even find their individual stories. At the umpire level, there's actually there's a foundation called Umps Care. And they do a really great job of tracking and knowing, you know, female umpires. There's so many, I think, people out there. And I think once you find 1 or 2, like, honestly, you find one and you talk to them or you email them, ask them if they know more women. Guaranteed. Like, I mean, I could name to you 20, you know, or more. And then you follow up with them and then ask each and every one of them, do you know more women that are in baseball that I should know who they are? I mean, Justine Siegal is someone you should definitely start with. I feel like she probably knows of, or at least knows personally, every female that's involved in baseball. So it's a huge resource for you. But then from there, once you meet more women, ask them like, okay, who else? Who am I missing? You know, and you'll see it's actually a pretty awesome community. I know. Sorry, I muted myself. Jennifer Wolf, who's on this call right now. I mean, give her some love right now. She's a female in baseball that's here. And so I think, you know, just being able to connect with more and more, and you'll find that we all kind of know each other because there's so few of us. We always find each other wherever we go.
Awesome. We only have time for a couple more questions. I'll take about 2 or 3 more, but Maggie from New Hampshire, do you want to ask your question?
Sure. what was your work ethic preparing for the Olympics?
I mean, it was a combination of like literally like because there's the workouts you have to do. We were living together for a full year, training for the Olympics. So of course, we were at the Olympic Training Center, and so we were, we had your workouts and the stuff. As you guys know, right now, your coaches tell you this is practice, this is what you do. It's really about the extra stuff, or not even the extra, but also what you do when you're out there. So if like they're telling you you got 15 swings on the field, each one of my swings is a different moment or a different at bat. It's not just going through the motion. It's a 3-2 count. It's bases are loaded. It's, something. I'm putting myself, so my heart rate goes up, because otherwise, like, I'm a totally different player in practice than I am in a game. I get so amped for games. So I try to bring that same energy to practice. And then there's the extra stuff. And that's the stuff that I would actually kind of get giddy about, like the hard stuff. I would always in the morning picture, literally I would picture whether it was tryouts coming up and the players that I was going to be competing against, or it was Yukiku Ueno, who was the pitcher for Japan that I knew I was going to be facing. And I knew that she was training right there in that moment, but I had a head start on her because we're ahead here in the US than Japan. So I'm like, okay, like I know you're going to get after it today, but I'm up first. And I literally would see her in my mind running or training or doing shuttles or lifting. And I'd be like, girl, I got you. Like, so it's crazy, and that's how I was. But part of my training, what would motivate me was all those little extra things. Even if we were doing a shuttle run as a team, I would give that extra oomph because I would picture my competition in my head and picture that they were doing what I was doing and they were right next to me and I wanted to beat them. And it would push me to do the hard things even better. And it was such a great feeling. I'm not going to lie that when I got in the batter's box against Yukiku Ueno at the Olympics, I almost had a smile on my face because I'm like, girl, you have no idea. I've been beating you every day for the last year. Like, there's no way you're getting me today. And it just gave me that confidence that, like, who actually knew who was working harder. But in my brain, I felt like I was. And that helped me train harder and better to beat them.
Thank you.
Can I ask for one person because I want to give a shout out to Carla Bustamante from Mexico. She's my girl. I haven't seen her forever. Hi, Carla. I know she had a question. I'm sorry, Lena. I'm like, totally.
No, you're good. That's perfect. I was actually
Carla's awesome. And you talk about heart for the game. Like, this girl has got it. I met, what was it, like 5 years ago in Arizona, and she was like, we need to get you to Mexico. And she's so passionate to get more girls playing baseball and softball in Mexico. Like, literally has taken the whole entire country under her own wing, like trying to encourage more. And that's where my father's from. So it's close to my heart. So Carla, you're awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. Thank you for Baseball for All and also for Justine Siegal to doing this. It has been a very inspiring morning, and I hope I dream with the day you can come to Hermosillo to share your experience as Justine Siegal did twice. So I'm so excited. I hope you can come one day and finally this dream can come true. Thank you, Jessica.
Yes, no, I am telling you, I will make it. It won't be anytime right now, but
I know.
I will be there.
Thank you.
Yes.
I think we just have 2 more questions, if that's okay, Jess, if you have the time.
Yes.
Sammy Brodsky, do you want to ask I know you had a couple of questions, but do you want to ask one of yours?
One. Okay, go.
Yes. Anyways, my question is, if a 4-year-old girl came up to you today and asked you for advice in sports, what would you say?
I would say I always say to stand out, and how I define that is by finding what makes you different. I think a lot of times we try to fit in, to be like those around us, to be like what we see on Instagram or on social media or magazines or TV. And it's like, oh, I want to be like her. I want to act like this, or I want to look like this. And to me, to be the best athlete and honestly best person, successful in every way, is to find out what makes you different, what lets you stand out. And I can guarantee that you will come across so many girls, Sammy, they're going to try to fit in and try to be here. And I think that's great because it allows you to stand out and be better if you can really embrace the things that make you different. And even if you get some funny looks, like, whoa, that was weird. Like, I used to get funny looks because I'd be covered in dirt head to toe after practice, and I'd get the like remarks like brown noser, like, what are you doing? It's practice. And the day that I realized that that was me and that's how I play the game, and you guys can do whatever you want, but this is how I'm going to play. It allowed me to stand out in my own way. And honestly, like, I think it motivated others to do the same. And I ended up finding more of my true friends that way, because then they knew me for my unique self and not for this parts of me that were just trying to fit in and be like everyone else.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got it.
We just have one more question. This is actually from one of our coaches for one of the girls' baseball teams. Suzanne, do you want to ask your question?
Sure. I actually don't coach an all-girls baseball team. Georgie Miles is on here. I saw her. She's on a co-ed baseball team I coach. And sometimes I'm the only female coach on a Little League field or at a tournament. And I'm just wondering if you have advice for players who may be the only girl on their team, or for female coaches, how to handle the mental side of the game, especially when any mistake or error that you make might make you feel like you stand out, versus when you're on a majority boys team or tournament. Thanks.
That's a great question, Suzanne. And thank you for coaching, by the way. I coached my son's Little League team, and I swear I got more, like, I didn't realize that, like, people would be so much more critical. Like, I literally had like parents asking me, like, do you know how to run a practice? And I'd be like, really? So thank you for doing what you're doing. Because honestly, just being there is going to encourage more girls, and honestly boys, to see that women can be in baseball. My advice to girls, because that pressure is real and it's there. And I go to the words of a huge mentor of mine, which is Billie Jean King. And she always says pressure is a privilege. And to me, you need to embrace the pressure. If you try to be like, okay, like I'm just going to try to blend and be like one of the boys. And I mean, obviously that's all of our goals, is just to like, hey, just be like, you know, a player, basically an athlete, without being noticed. But the reality of the situation is people do notice you. You know, we are different. I'm a woman in all men around me, you know, and people sometimes will point that out when I walk in the room. Oh, you're a woman. I'm like, oh, thank you. I had no idea. I'm so proud that you were pointing that out to me. But my point with that is that with it comes pressure. And I've learned to flip how I evaluate pressure in my head. So yeah, if a ground ball's hit to you and you're at shortstop and you're the only girl on the field and you bobble it, there comes a lot of eyes, and in your mind you might feel like, oh my gosh, the world is ending. But if you take it as like, you know what, I am here because I deserve to be here, but I'm also carrying this for so many other women, and it's a privilege to be here. I could actually take the easy road. I could go quit and I could go play softball where everyone would just be like, okay, girls, this is where you're at, fine, it's easy. But like I said earlier, you have to pick, to me, the harder route that's true to your heart, and it will pay off huge. And when you feel that pressure and your heart's racing and you feel like, oh my gosh, everyone's looking at me because I'm the only girl out here, like, reverse it in your head is like, but that pressure, how many people in the world are dealing with this pressure right now? Not many. Most people want the easy route. They want the route where no one's looking at them. But I'm telling you, if you take the road where it's like, bring on the pressure, and yeah, my heart's still going to pound, I'm still going to get my sweaty palms, and I'm still going to get really nervous, it just means you care. And you're privileged to be in this awesome situation that you're in, which is honestly maybe one of few girls in your league or on your team or on that field that are able to play the sport of baseball. But it's a privilege, the fact that you are there. So Billie Jean really helped me kind of switch that in my head. Instead of freaking out, I was like, I'm the only woman doing this right now, but I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Amazing. I think that is, I think we could be on this call for probably the rest of the day. But I think that is a great note to end on. I want to thank everybody so much for all of your amazing questions. I know I'm sorry that we didn't get to every single one of them, but maybe we'll do this again down the road, and we can, have round 2.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in. Yeah, this was awesome. This totally made my day. I was like taking screenshots of everybody. Hope that's okay, because I was like, this is so cool. I wish I had like the whole board.
Yeah.
Of everybody, because I'm looking at I keep switching through screens, just looking at everyone's smiling faces, the different backdrops, all you guys in your houses, and I hope you're staying safe and being smart, and honestly, like getting outside and being able to play catch, even if it's my kids are playing wall ball, they're throwing tennis balls against the side of the house, and just being able to use this time to be close with family and enjoy each other too.
Awesome. On that note, thank you guys so much. Stay safe and stay well. We'll try and do this again soon, but happy opening day, everybody, and we'll talk to you all soon.